an independent. I'm kind of in the middle of the road. I vote for both sides. Right now, he's a former presidential candidate. He also ran for mayor of New York City, and he is starting and has already started his own party, ladies and gentlemen. That's right. It's called the Forward Party, and it certainly is a pleasure having us on the line with us right now. Andrew Yang joining us. Mr. Yang, I appreciate you joining us. How are you?
Hey, Brian. Great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, good to see you. Okay, so I guess my first big question for you is why? Tell me a little bit about this Forward Party. Why did you start it? Where do you see it going?
Wow, I feel like Nevada is the best example of why I started Forward. So in 2022, you all had a ballot initiative, question 3, whether to get rid of the primaries. And to me, this is vital for our country's future. The Dems came out against it. They said, we like things the way they are. The Republicans came out against it, said, we like the things the way they are. And Forward was founded to stand up for the average voter. I'm going to suggest, Brian, you're an independent, so you probably dug the idea of getting rid of the primaries. Right. Where we're standing for the average reasonable voter who's on the outside looking into the system right now. So that's why we started Forward. We're thrilled that Nevadans voted for question 3, voted yes. And it's not done yet because it's coming back to your ballot box in 24.
So if somebody asked you, Andrew, if you won the presidency or if you won the mayoral race in New York City, would you still have started this party, or to this day, would you still be a Democrat? What would you say?
It's a great question, Brian. So here was the order of operations. Check it out. I run for president as a Democrat in 2020. I come off the trail and I have the sinking feeling that we're still adrift or heading in a terrible direction. And so during 2020, I dug into a bunch of facts and figures, some of which you know very well, like Congress has a 15% approval rating, but a 94% reelect rate because of gerrymandering and other things. And I concluded that we needed a new party. So running for mayor was a way I could have my cake and eat it too, because I'd already written the book. And if I had become mayor of New York City, I was going to declare myself an independent mayor and say, hey, guess what? The mayor of the biggest city in the country is now Forward, thus planting the flag for the party. Now that this would have had its pluses and minuses. Number one, hard to ignore the mayor of the biggest city. But on the flip side, I would have been completely consumed with the issues of New York City. And so the Forward Party in other environments would have to figure it out, honestly. Right. But I came to the conclusion in 2020 that our current system is not working. And if you review the timeline of things, I'd already written the manuscript by the time I lost the mayoral, honestly. Mm-hmm. And so win or lose, I was going to kick off the Forward Party.
Understood. Now, I'm sure you've been asked this question before, but I'll ask it. If someone approaches you and says, well, wait a second, this sort of thing was tried before. Look at Ross Perot. Look at what happened with Ralph Nader. What would be your response to that for people that are, speculate that, hey, I don't think this is going to work because it's been tried in the past?
Oh, Brian, I love this question. So check it out. Let's say you wanted to start a new party. And I'm sure that you as an independent or people listening to this have had this thought, been like, hey, shouldn't there be another party? Now, what are the real life obstacles? It turns out that if you want to start a party, you have to start 51 different organizations, one national and then one in every state. So if you look at the Forward Party of Nevada, it's some great people, Cesar Marquez, Valesan Antona, but some people you and I know.
Sure.
But you have to go through all these logistical hurdles. You have to incorporate, you have to try and be recognized as a party, which means different things in different states. And even if you succeed, the current parties will just change the rules on you, honestly. Like that's kind of their move.
Right.
So when someone says, hey, it can't be done, you'd be like, well, actually, here are all of the steps you would need to take. Is it difficult and cumbersome? Yes. Does it require resources and lawyers? Yes. But is it doable? Sure. And any movement like this is going to have asymmetric opportunities, shall we say, where if you look at it, you could be going slow, and then fast because someone decides to run for a statewide office in a particular state, or on the extreme end, someone runs for the White House.
Sure.
So you reference Nader and Perot. So Perot got 19% in 1992 when 25% of Americans said they were independents. Today, that number is 49%. So you're in very good company, Brian. And 2/3 of Americans or more say they want a new party and that our current system's not working.
I didn't know it was that high. Wow, 49% is extremely high. If you're just joining us, he's former presidential candidate Andrew Yang, his new Forward Party, an independent party. Okay, so I only speak for myself here, Andrew, when I say, yes, I'm an independent. I know you and I agree. We do not want Donald Trump to be in office, and we both don't want Joe Biden versus Donald Trump. That's most of the country, by the way. But when I hear about an independent party, and I like the idea of it, don't get me wrong. We agree on a lot politically, you and I. But when I hear about an independent party, I get a little worried. And here's why I get a little worried. And I think you know what I'm going to say. I don't want to help Donald Trump become the next president of the United States. I will vote for Joe Biden over Donald Trump. I would imagine if it was between those two, and you could answer for yourself, but you would probably do the same. And the worry that I have is this going to take away from votes for Joe Biden? What would be your response to that?
Well, that's one reason why you're not having a conversation with current presidential candidate Andrew Yang, because if I were to run on an independent ticket, I would probably strengthen the person who's most unlike me. The fact is, Brian, when someone asks me, hey, how can you make sure Trump doesn't win? I tell them, you should run the most rancid, racist, white supremacist type you can find who will take 2 or 3 points away from Trump. Or it's like, Trump not racist enough for you? Check out this guy. I mean, that would actually be smart. Now, no one wants to touch that with a 10-foot pole. And I'm like, okay, I get that. So our current broken system makes it so that you don't want another sane person to run. I consider myself sane, so I'm not running. But the Forward Party has plans to help in 24. We want to enlist and boost hundreds of moderate local candidates in Nevada and around the country, with the idea being that if you had 100 school board or city council or town supervisor candidates running, then they might get 20, 30 extra voters each, which might boost the non-Trump turnout by, let's call it 10 to 20,000 in your 5 or 6 swing states. And maybe that's the difference maker. One of the dirty secrets of the current two-party system, Brian, is that neither party really cares about contesting the other party's turf. If you go to rural Nevada, you're not going to see lots of Democrats running in a deep red district, in part because the parties are financial operations, and they're like, why are we going to waste money? So nationwide, 70% or so of offices are uncontested or uncompetitive. So if you want to help things, what you want to do is create competition in more places.
I want to ask you about somebody that calls himself now a fellow independent, which is Robert F. Kennedy Jr. I could tell you I wouldn't vote for him, even though I agree with him probably on 90% of what he believes in. I don't like his conspiracy theories with the vaccines. I don't like some of his statements he's made about Ukraine, and I just spoke with him a few weeks ago. What do you make of Robert F. Kennedy Jr.? And is he a guy that you would want to accept in your Forward Party? And have you talked to him about that?
There are people who are very excited about RFK's message. I think he's a very compelling messenger. What's interesting is that his run seems to actually help Biden and hurt Trump because of the nature of RFK's appeal, according to the polls that I've seen. So I don't know RFK well enough to have an opinion as to I have a lot of friends who are supporting him, but I haven't spent enough time with him to have a judgment in that regard. I will say that the major opportunity that most people are missing in this race is Dean Phillips challenging Joe Biden in the Democratic primary. If your goal is to defeat Donald Trump, I don't think you want Joe Biden as your candidate. Joe Biden's losing in 5 of the 6 swing states. Joe Biden's going to be 82 years old in 2024. Joe Biden's old and unpopular. Those are 2 adjectives that are accurate.
Well, let me ask you, I agree with you, Andrew. Listen, I agree with everything you just said. But with that being said, in the next year or so, how do you see this thing playing out? You've been doing this for a while now. You're pretty juiced into what's going on here. Do you think that Joe Biden is going to back out, and it could be a guy like a Gavin Newsom, who, by the way, has a debate, as you know, with Ron DeSantis tomorrow night? Or do you see this being Joe Biden, stubborn, I guess is the word that I would use, because a lot of Democrats don't want him to run for office again because of his age, not because I think he's a bad guy. He's, like you said, he's just a little bit too old. How do you see this thing playing out over the next year? And do you think you can see somebody like Gavin Newsom jumping in there?
Okay, here's the inside scoop as I hear it, Brian. The stuff we're hearing is that it is sincere, that Joe wants to run, is running. Jill wants him to run, is running. There are a bunch of people one level out that are nervous, very, very nervous. But it's Joe, Jill, and Joe appointed the head of the DNC, Jamie Harrison. So as long as that triad is, directed towards the campaign, nothing changes. Now, in that environment, the question is, can you actually show him the light, or compete with him to a point where he says, you know what, I'm going to go out like a George Washington style statesman and not lose or even compete in his party's primary. So he set up the primary to try and minimize competition, and then he's gone to the Gavin Newsoms and Gretchen Whitmers and said, do not run. Wait until 2028. Everyone has stood down except for Dean Phillips. Dean Phillips is the only guy with a backbone, honestly, who's like, fuck you guys. I'd rather run and risk my career than just give the country to Trump, which is what I think is going to happen if Joe Biden's the nominee. So let's say Dean Phillips puts up a big number, even beats Joe Biden in New Hampshire, which I think is very possible given that the state has rejected Joe Biden 3 times. And that was before he demoted them for South Carolina. Right. So on January 23rd of next year, if Dean Phillips upsets Joe Biden, I think that creates an environment where Joe Biden looks around and says, you know what, I am going to go out. And this has happened in the past, where Lyndon Johnson only beat, I think it was McCarthy by 7 points in New Hampshire. And it was humiliating enough where he said, fuck it. Like, I don't want to be the incumbent who loses the primary to the upstart. But the reality is a majority of Democratic voters aren't comfortable with Joe being the nominee. So if Dean Phillips becomes a thing, this all can happen.
If that does happen, can you see somebody like Gavin Newsom stepping in?
Oh, totally. And so this is one of the disgusting things about what's going on right now, Brian. Check it out. The DNC is essentially a clutch of X-100 very, very senior party officials. They've been told by Joe Biden, stay in line. They're like, sure, we're cowards. We're going to stay in line. Then Dean Phillips is like, hey, guys, this is dumb. I'm going to challenge you. Now, this clutch does not want to reward the Dean Phillips because he went against the club by running. So this crowd is going to want to give it to Newsom or Whitmer. Now, you're going to wind up with, in my opinion, some very, very strange convention dynamics at play. And then the question is, in my mind, does Dean Phillips create a big enough wave and have the resources where everyone shrugs and says, look, at this point, Dean Phillips is beating Trump by 6 or 8 points. So he's 54 years old. And, at this point has been somewhat tested and vetted. Let's give it to him. But right now, natively, this clutch of DNC insiders is thinking Gavin Newsom, Gretchen Whitmer, Raphael Warnock, like figures like that.
Gotcha. All right. So you know what it takes to be on a presidential debate stage. You've done it. You've been through it before. So with that being said, I want to ask you this. Is there anybody on the debate stage you've seen in these 3 Republican debates that you were impressed with, that you could say, I could maybe see myself voting for so-and-so? Who have you been impressed with, if anybody at all, in these first Republican presidential debates?
My 2 favorite candidates in that field are Nikki Haley and Chris Christie. I think they're both rational, principled, would not destroy destroy the institutions of American democracy. So, and by the way, I think Nikki Haley in particular would beat Joe Biden handily. You have both major parties anchored to these really, really unpopular candidates. Whichever party managed to break free of that wins. And there are a lot of folks I know who are trying to pile in behind Nikki Haley. It's TBD whether it's going to be enough to upset Trump. So here's what's going to happen, probably. You have 4 other candidates in the race, meaningfully. So it's DeSantis, Vivek, Nikki, and Christie. No one's dropping out before Iowa. DeSantis has put all of his eggs into Iowa. If he does badly there, he's out. But then even if you go to New Hampshire, it's Trump versus 3 others, and Trump has maybe 50% of the base on lock. So you want the field to consolidate as quickly as possible to give someone like Nikki Haley a shot, but time's not on her side. And if history repeats itself, there'll be enough candidates staying in the field long enough to make it hard to beat Trump.
A couple more quick questions for you, Andrew, and we really appreciate your time. If you had the opportunity to be in a room privately with Joe Biden and Donald Trump, I'm curious, what would you say to both of them? I don't know if it would be a different message, but what would be your criticisms? And if you had the opportunity, what would you say to them right now?
I mean, I'd say to Joe Biden, Joe, you're an American icon and hero for beating Trump the first time. Now we need you to be a statesman, not a politician, and go out like George Washington and leave it to the next generation. And then you'd immediately go from being someone that we're nervous about or beating up in the press or whatnot to someone that everyone just gets behind and loves, and you can cement your legacy this way. Trump, I mean, there's no use reasoning with that guy. I would, geez, what would I do? I'd try and give him some more fast food or whatnot, and try and clog the arteries or something like that. I mean, let's not even talk, Donald. Here's some Big Macs.
But it's interesting, Andrew, because when people say to me all the time, why do you keep bringing up Donald Trump? Why do you keep bringing up Donald Trump? You know how I'm bringing him up. He's still the face of the Republican Party. He's the overwhelming favorite, to be running for president again against Joe Biden and to be the winner in the Republican Party, right? I mean, we have to
dude, he's the favorite in the general. I mean,
right.
Mathematically, he's a favorite in the general.
Right. So, I mean, we have to. He's a threat to our democracy, is he not, Andrew? I mean, he still says that he won the 2020 election, and the right-wing MAGA, as I call them, buffoons out there, still continue with the lies. The Carrie Lakes of the world, who still says she won in Arizona. What do you make of these ultra MAGA Republicans, as Joe Biden would say?
No, I think he is a threat to our democracy. I think we have to make sure he does not win again. I think he's the favorite to win again. So we have to do everything we can to change that, whether it's boost Nikki Haley, boost Dean Phillips, boost anyone who's going to be a better nominee against Joe. There are tens of millions of Americans who fall into this Trump camp. And I think the two-party system is guiding us to disaster, because I was with an independent the other day. And then she said, there is no way I could vote for Joe Biden. And then someone said, what if it's Trump or Biden? She was like, Trump. That there are probably millions of Americans who are making the same type of decision, at least at this point. That's why we have to replace Biden with a better candidate and give them real choice. That this two-party system is going to guide us into unprecedented disaster. When I say unprecedented, I mean, I do think a Trump second term would be orders of magnitude worse than his first.
I could not agree with you more, Andrew. With that being said, is there ever a chance, do you say never, that you could run as a Democrat ever again? Or are you just completely done and you're saying, listen, this is my new party. I started this thing. I'm going to, continue with it no matter what happens? Or do you say never, I could run as a Democrat down the road?
You know what's funny, bro? I mean, there are a lot of people who run as Democrats who don't give a shit about the Democratic Party. They're running as Democrats because they need to win. I'm more concerned with trying to fix the system. I think the ballot initiative in Nevada is crucial. If we make the system more resilient, that would be something I'd be super pumped about. But I haven't shut any door on anything. I remember Bernie Sanders running for the Democratic nomination as essentially a card-carrying independent. The fact is, everyone knows that if I were to win in office, I would essentially just govern as an independent. Take the party interest and say, like, look, guys, you had a nice run, but that's not what I'm about. I don't think I could, frankly, pretend to be a conventional Democrat. But when someone asks my politics or policies, I just want good things for people. And the toxicity of our current system is that you think, one party or another has a monopoly on wanting good things for people. Neither party right now is able to really solve our biggest problems.
And I get that. I get that, but you know why I'm asking this question, Andrew, because you're pro-choice. You don't demonize, illegals coming into this country like so many people on the right do. You're not a MAGA. You're far from a Trump supporter. And you lean to the left on plenty of social issues like I do. I'm still an independent, but when I think of your name, I say to myself, reasonable guy, very intelligent, on the right side of history. But if I asked you, what are some of your values or policy way of thinking that would lean to the right, what would that be? Because I don't know. Do you have policies that Democrats are 100% against you on that those on the far right agree with you with?
Well, first, I would say the ideological left-right spectrum, I think, is a setup, and we should try and get away from it as quickly as possible.
Okay.
That said, the things that came to mind for me when you said this are around addressing homelessness, public safety, education. There are some things that I believe that probably strike folks as a little bit more middle of the road or even somewhat center right. Like I was endorsed by the police captains and the firefighters when I ran for mayor, and standing with those guys was something I was really proud of. I mean, these were guys who risked their lives, and in my mind, like Shar is like, in any profession, are there people that are jerks and problematic? Yes, but like generally speaking, if you just took the average. Certainly the average firefighter. I mean, that's for damn sure. I mean, those guys are, and the average cop. Like I was on the street yesterday, and I just started going up to some cops and, thanking them, and they were appreciative, and the rest of it. So that there are things like that I would say I'm non-ideological, and my problem with a lot of what's going on the left right now, even when I was running for president, I remember I started running on universal basic income day one. And then they were looking at it being like, oh, and I thought the people on the left would be like, oh, I'm going to be into this. And they weren't, because it wasn't like in their symbolic language. I was called like a Trojan horse for something or other. Like I was called a white supremacist. I was called all sorts of weird shit from the left. And I was looking at it being like, well, this is very odd. I thought you guys would be into this. And then there was an evolution where they were like, oh, maybe we actually are into fighting poverty. Like maybe that's a good idea. Yeah. So there's like an ideological strain over there that like I don't fit with. I just want things to work better for people. Mm-hmm. And for some of those things, I think you need to get homeless people into better situations. I think you need cops and firefighters to be motivated and more, it's like, so I don't know how that strikes you ideologically.
No, I'm with you on that. I'm with you on pretty much your entire platform, except for maybe, I don't know about handing checks to everybody in this country. I don't know if that would help the situation any. However, I am with you on again, most of the things that you are for. And you talk about homelessness. Of course, I'm with you on that. And I think Gavin Newsom's going to be hammered on that in the state of California. And that's what would worry me if he runs for president of the United States. Last question for you, Andrew. For people out there that are listening and they want to learn more about your party, they want to learn more about the Forward Party, they don't know where to go. They feel like the Democratic Party has deserted them or the Republican Party has deserted them. They're not MAGA supporters. They're not liberals. What would you say to them, and how do you get them? What would be your message to them to come to the Forward Party?
Parties are people, Brian. So what I'd want them to do is I'd want them to go to forwardparty.com, find their state. Sounds like it's probably going to be Nevada. and then just click on it, put in your email address, and then wait to see what happens. And what will probably happen is a pleasant person will email you and be like, hey, what's up? My name is Caesar. My name is Melissa. My name is Sandra probably doesn't send emails like that, but whatever. And then they might have an event in your neighborhood, or they might talk about this ballot initiative, or they might talk about some local candidate, and just see if you jive with the people. I have a feeling you will, because they're very, very positive humans. But that's where it starts. Just forwardparty.com. Click on your state.
Well, I've always appreciated your perspectives. I appreciate this. I'm really interested to see where this party goes, and you're always welcome back anytime. And you're a smart guy, and I always like to pick your brain on a number of different issues that are facing this country and the world. So Andrew Yang, thank you so much for your time. We appreciate you, and I wish you the best of luck, and hope to have you on again soon down the road. Thank you so much.
Push those limits, Brian. Yes. Limits are for suckers.
I hope I didn't push too many of your limits, but you answered all my questions, so I do appreciate that, Andrew.
My team used to yell at me, being like, stop answering their questions.
I'm not Sean Hannity. I'm not Fox News. I'm also not MSNBC, by the way. I try to take both perspectives and then take it from there. And I always appreciate the fact that you're always willing to answer anything. Andrew Yang, thank you so much for your time. Have a great holiday. Have a great Christmas.
You too. Vote yes on question 3 again, Nevada. I'll see you soon.
I might just do that. Thank you. Andrew Yang, everybody. Appreciate the time, sir. Thank you very much.
Bye, Brian.
All right. There you go. That's Andrew Yang, everybody. Good guy. I like Andrew. Smart guy. Very well spoken. I probably agree with him 95% of the time when it comes to his policy making and decisions. The thing I didn't agree with was, handing out those blank checks to everybody. I don't know if that was the best way to go about it. But at the same time, I think he has a good heart and he's coming from the right place. Do I think this forward party is going to work? Well, you know what? Time will tell. Time will tell. But I appreciate Andrew taking the time. He's a good guy. And hope to have him on again down the road. Appreciated that. All right, we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, there's a lot of controversy in the NBA.